River, I always get so nervous about showing other designers our Figma space. Guys, I have a question for you. Rate our Figma workspace. River, we're trying to get better, right? We are ever improving, but it's a work in progress. Guys, let us know. How is your workspace? Is it messy? We'd love to hear. Let us know in the comments.
So the last time that we released an episode for this series, how we create category defining brands, we had some great feedback going on. People are loving it, seeing the behind the scenes, seeing the thinking and the decision making that happens, and not just kind of the pushing of the pixels and the actual creative execution of it. It did become apparent to us that we kind of skipped a step and we went through to the mood boarding phase, the visual territories, without actually telling you, how do we come up with a direction for that? How do we do the strategy? What are the conversations that we're having with our clients before we put pen to paper, before we get into design, before we get into curation even. So this one is all about how we find that big brand idea. What do we do? What is this about? So before we touch those design tools, we need to first understand a few things. And I've summarized it here. We've got the current versus the future. This is the client that we're working with, the brand we're working with. Where are they currently at? What change are they going through? How are they currently perceived? And what is that desired future state that they're trying to reach? 2, the creative challenge. What is the challenge of this project? What is a prompt? What is a lens that we can use to frame that for our designers, for our team to be able to tackle that and come up with creative ways which we can create this brand identity, this website, this digital presence that's going to move them forward towards that future that they're after. 3, what is the audience? That's pretty simple. Who does it need to speak to on an emotive level, as well as on a functional level? 4, the market. What is the market that it's in? What is the competitor set that they're getting compared to? And 5, stemming from that, what is the point of difference? How different do we go versus how familiar do we need to make it? These are the constant kind of tensions at play in the context that we need so we know how to get into the creative stage.
I think context is the key word there, River, and this is all that we're doing here. It's just setting that context. It's understanding why we're all sat in this room, right? The client, they have come to us for a reason, whatever company you are, right? Obviously, the one that we're talking about here, as the audience is going to see in a moment, is a VC. There's always these sort of key inflection points. There's a catalyst. There's a reason why somebody is coming to us to up their game. And the first thing we need to do is sit down with them, have a person-to-person, shoulder-to-shoulder conversation to understand why we're here in the first place.
So how do we do it then? There's a few different ways that we do this. There's stakeholder interviews. Oftentimes these are held virtually, although that when we can, we love to get in person and have a little jam session and do it together, get people in a room. Number 2 is customer interviews. Sometimes that's a tool that we use. Number 3 is competitive category review. Again, taking a snapshot, a bird's eye view of those in the category, having a look at the narratives, having a look at the positioning or the reputation in the eyes of the audience and finding that opportunity. Number 4, Google, YouTube, should probably add ChatGPT in here as well. Though I prefer to go to Google and YouTube because I like to see what's already out there. I'm quite a visual learner myself. Going through these different pieces to find out how things work, and it's that curiosity that you need in this space. And then number 5, looking at motifs, references, etymology, adjacent inspiration. So where else can we go with this? What else is similar or parallel to it that we can look into for inspiration?
I think that's even more important as well in the tech space, right? Again, when there's often something that's unfamiliar, we work with a lot of deep tech, things that are new and challenging the way that we go about the world and industry. Again, that deeper context is so important because that surface level stuff, again, this doesn't necessarily exist yet. These ideas, these themes, the challenge that the companies are coming to us to solve, they don't exist yet. And that's why we go that extra mile. We call it business immersion, discovery, whatever you want to call it. It's going that extra mile to make sure that you understand very nuanced things that on the surface you may not have discovered or you might not even think matter. And it's taking that extra time, and then you might find a little piece of intel there that really does change the trajectory of where you end up taking a brand, right?
I'll get onto it as well, but we often have kind of like questionnaires and that kind of smaller bit of context, but it's through conversations where they elaborate on things that you find that seed of an idea, that tiny bit of a twinkle between the conversations that you can really pull out, and it has legs. let's see how this goes down. And again, we're not saying this is perfect. This is our approach. It has taken on many forms before. And even in this one, it's slightly new, slightly different. So I'm just going to zoom out here just to give you a brief overview of the different sections that we've got. Over here, we've got, I guess this is like getting immersed and looking at the current. So what we're looking at here is some client inspiration. This is materials they've been collecting whilst we were speaking, whilst we were having those early conversations, and inspiration that they liked. There was also competitor homepages. Even before we'd secured the project, we wanted to have a look. We wanted to see the opportunity. We wanted to get excited about the potential that could happen there. And then a discovery questionnaire. So this is after we secured the project. Before the workshop starts, we like to send a discovery questionnaire because we like to show up not empty-handed. We like to show up with some prior knowledge. We like to know how their business works and some of those key questions. And then the workshop we do is very much, pressure testing those questions thereafter. Our workspace is actually really organized from here on out because we have a new convention in practice that we are practicing. So anyway, so once we've got that questionnaire done, we've done that preliminary kind of research, we then run a workshop. And we've gone really back to basics with our workshop. We used to have loads of exercises and all these brand strategy exercises. And this was inspired by by our brand designer that we've been working with as part of our team. It just kind of reminded us, it's not about the exercises. It's not about how good the Figma file looks and stuff. It's about the conversations that it sparks thereafter.
Going back to basics and just asking those basic questions and having a conversation. Those are the workshops that have generated the best results.
So competitor landscape, this is where we're looking at the competitor set. This could be direct competitors or those that are kind of adjacent to them as well. We're then looking at a 5-year roadmap. Again, what is it that they're looking to achieve right now? Values, what are the values that they live by? Again, we're not creating or fabricating these values. We're trying to extract these from how they conduct their work, how they deliver their service or their products. It's something we're trying to extract, not invent. Brand purpose. We actually didn't do this one for this project. Again, various projects we might change things, but essentially who they help, what they do, how they do it, and then get into why they do it. Think Simon Sinek, start with why. Top 3 audiences. So again, we already had a good idea going into this from the questionnaire. But here we're looking into who does this need to appeal to first? And oftentimes we're framing this between like, what is the main touch point that your audience is going to come across? In this case, it's the website. So we're thinking about it in that manner as well. We also have personality sliders. The framing on this really matters. And then finally, touch points, just grabbing some context of where else, other than the obvious, does this brand need to live? We need to make sure we have context of that. And that's both what's current and versus where does it need to be able to scale to as well?
This is something that often gets missed, isn't it, from a lot of these sessions from what I've found, is that they don't take into account where this actually needs to live in the real world. And it's all well and good having a branding project and working on this brand, but when you've got something that lives behind a computer screen, goes into a Google folder and it gets sent to the client without consideration of where it needs to live and show up, it's kind of futile.
And then a couple of other things that we touched on during this project was the name. What is the meaning behind the name? Tell me a bit about how you started, how you came into existence. And in this case, the secure bird is one that's super unique in how it creates its nest. It's basically engineered to hang from a tree rather than sit on top. And that's to protect it from predators, essentially. So that was why they came up with this, right? Like, they are in this space of hard tech, deep tech, physical industries and technology. And it's all around engineering the future and, that emergent frontier technology coming to life. That's what they help founders to do and help to be an incubator for as they can scale up to, have an impact on the industry. So that was really interesting.
And I can assume that your knowledge of the Zakua bird was virtually zero prior to this project, right? You sound like a Zakua bird pro there, mate.
Yeah, I started with Wikipedia, but it didn't give me what I needed. So I found a really badly done YouTube video, but it was really helpful. So yeah, about 4 or 5 minute video spoke volumes to me.
Just goes to show the benefit of understanding background and where things have come from, nature, science, the real world. Understanding those nuanced things can really help to define where you take a brand.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nature is like my favorite place to go to for inspiration. And even the colors of the bird as well are like super interesting, super striking. So we oftentimes go to nature for color palettes as well later down the line. This is when we now are in a good place to hand that to our design team and ourselves as we begin to explore this and get hands-on. The next phase is the mood boards. It is the visual territories, and we usually come up with 2 or 3. And this is more curation than designs. So I wanted to show you a bit of the messy part before we get to the final deliverable. But essentially what we're doing here, and this is an evolution of what we've done before, but we're looking at different brand devices just here. As we go down, I'm not going to get too much into it, but we're looking at different things that could represent, or ideas that could represent, the things we've just discussed. So as we're getting into here, we're looking at typography, we're looking at color, layout, composition. We're looking at brand language that's distinct, whether it's different patterns or whether it's figurative drawings that you might find in a blueprint. Patterns, gradients, what are those like distinct elements that could come together to form a brand that has substance, that could support it in all those different touch points that we identified. So that's a bit of an insight. And then finally, the other piece that we put into this as well is some website heroes. One bit of feedback we have been getting from mood boards is they don't really know which bits to focus on, or maybe there's a graphic piece, and in a graphic piece, for example, there's a lot of things we could be referring to here. It could be the color palette, it could be the diagram, it could be the typography, it could be the layout, it could be all of it. And sometimes we get a little bit of pushback or disconnect there with the alignment.
How we used to do this is we would present that mood board, and even if they didn't quite have that full clarity of what it was that they were looking at, and that was a problem in of itself, they might choose to go down a particular direction, and then we explore some potential hero concepts. What we found is, and again, this is an ever-evolving process and something that's quite new, but by creating hero concepts alongside the mood board, these sort of visual territories, we're actually able to say, look, here's the mood board, here's the territory, and here's the big idea behind it, and here's how we visualize it manifesting itself in your core touch point, which is more often than not going to be the website.
Beautifully put. And then the final document then, this is what we're actually sending to the client. We're doing a Loom walkthrough as well on the important pieces. I usually skim over the strategy and then deliver the 3 angles. Kind of start here with the big idea and the creative challenge. And then these are the different angles that are within that lens that we're looking at. This is visual territory 1. And if we go to the big idea and then we have the creative translation, we then have the mood board. We also have a breakdown of that. What is it specifically we're pulling out or showing you here? And then finally, just some hero concept explorations. We're going to visit this later on because we're doing a website as well. But just so you can compare and have that context of how we're thinking about applying this. Just some early concept ideations of, if you was to go down this route, this is what it could look like, or this is some feelings, or bringing those elements together and how they could look like as a concept.
I just want to be super clear here. None of this would be possible without us taking that time to immerse ourselves, to speak to the people from within the industry, having that industry knowledge, looking at market conditions, the competitors, really taking that time to deeply immerse ourselves in the world of the company and the sector that they are within. Cannot be overstated enough just how important that is in order to get to this creative direction.
Generally, it's just curiosity. You've got to be really curious. The whole team does research as well. You know, we're sharing things between ourselves, getting it in the Discord. Hey, have you seen this? Oh, just found this. It's like, we even like looking for inspiration just when I'm going to the supermarket or going on a walk or something. Like, it's all around us, that inspiration and these big ideas. We've just sent this to the client. We've already had some great feedback and lots of engagement because there are 3 founding partners involved in reviewing the material and making sure that they are happy with how they are going to be presented ultimately as a brand. So yeah, they actually just said they loved it, and the way that we managed to put down our thoughts into branding ideas is great. So really good feedback. We've also got feedback on, hey, here's what resonates with us most. Here's the direction we feel most drawn to. However, here's another idea we have that we can bring into the mix, or maybe take from one direction to another. And now it is our job to kind of take that. And that is often the case, right? Like bringing different ideas, combining them together. We just need to make sure that they will work together as one cohesive brand, and that there's no ideas conflicting with one another. This is where all of our projects start, and then we then get into the creative process, the branding. This is when we start creation, going from discovery and curation to creation. Hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be doing a lot more episodes for this series where we're showing you our process from start to finish. And this is how we create category defining brands.
These are my memoirs. Light up a cigar, smoke up the memories as I sit and dust them off. Why do people say it's just to piss you off? Ignore them, no call button, and then dress too par. Now they can't test the guard.